I ate alone on Mother's Day until the delivery driver handed me my son's confession by mistake. Before I begin my story, I just want to say thank you for listening as I pour my heart out. Let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is. I love hearing from you all. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It helps me more than you know. Mother's Day used to be my favorite holiday. Not because of the cards or flowers, but because it was the one day my family seemed to remember who I was before I became background noise in their busy lives. When Douglas was younger, he'd wake me with breakfast on a paper plate, construction paper hearts taped around the edges. When little Ava would pick wildflowers from the backyard, bringing them to me in her tiny fists, petals missing, stems bent, but oh so beautiful. Those were the days this house felt like a home. This morning though, silence filled every corner. I woke early, made my bed with hospital corners like Mama taught me, and put on my Sunday blouse just in case they stopped by. I even set out the good china, the ones with tiny blue roses that only saw daylight twice a year. The lemon pound cake I baked the night before sat cooling under Mama's old mesh dome. Perfect golden slices waiting to be shared. I told myself maybe they were running late. Maybe brunch turned into lunch, lunch into dinner. I wasn't giving up hope before noon. By 11 I brewed fresh tea, laid out cloth napkins, arranged 3 perfect slices on the serving tray. One for me, one for Douglas, one for Ava. I didn't bother with a fourth. Rachel never came to these things anyway. Called once just to check. 5 rings, then voicemail. His voice sounded tired even in the recording. I didn't leave a message. He knew what day it was. I wasn't about to beg to be remembered by my own son. By 2 o'clock, I gave up waiting at that dining table and moved to my favorite chair by the living room window. From there I could watch the neighbors coming and going with balloons, gift bags, containers full of potato salad. Mrs. Jenkins' daughter pulled into the driveway across the street wearing actual heels. That's how you knew she respected her mama. I sipped my lukewarm tea and told myself there was probably traffic. Maybe a last-minute emergency. Maybe they just forgot. But no, Rachel runs that house like a courtroom. If anything, this was intentional. I ate my cake in complete silence. I refused to cry. I was not going to shed tears over being invisible. Not today. I've lived long enough to know when you stop being the center of your child's world, you become background noise. The love you once gave becomes something they outgrow. But I kept my dignity. I held that fork like it was a scepter and ate every bite like it was served at the finest restaurant. Around 4 there was a knock. My heart jumped. For one foolish moment I thought maybe they'd come after all. Maybe Ava had begged to visit and Douglas finally gave in. I smoothed my blouse, brushed crumbs from my lap, walked to the door trying not to hold my breath. It wasn't Douglas. A young man in a brown delivery jacket stood there holding a large catering bag and a white envelope. "Delivery for Carter," he said. "That's me," I nodded. "Great, this was scheduled for today. Sorry I'm running late. Here's your food," and this came with it. He handed me the warm bag and envelope, then walked back to his car. The smell hit me first when I brought it to the kitchen. Stuffed chicken breasts, mashed potatoes, asparagus. My stomach actually growled. I opened the bag and found containers labeled for 3 people. I smiled a little, even if it was sad. Maybe this was their peace offering. Small but still something. Then I opened that envelope. Everything stopped. It wasn't a card. It wasn't a message from Douglas or Ava. It was letterhead from a retirement facility. Morning Grove Retirement Living. At first I thought it was a mistake, but then I saw the details. "Welcome to your future residence," it said. Below that, my name. Mildred Carter. Below that, my son's email address. The form detailed a confirmed move-in date. It listed my known allergies, my medications, a preferred payment method linked to my checking account. My account. My legs went numb. I gripped the counter to keep from falling. This wasn't a brochure. This wasn't a suggestion. It was a finalized welcome packet. I wasn't just being forgotten. I was being removed. My son had submitted paperwork to have me put away quietly, without asking, without warning. While I sat alone on Mother's Day, they were finalizing my disappearance. If you think what they did to me was wrong, write mother in the comments. If you think I deserved it somehow, write 1. But be honest with yourself about which one you choose. I stood there staring at that letter for what felt like hours. My name, my medical details, my bank information, all printed in neat rows like I was furniture being moved. Not a mother. Not a human being. Just a problem to be quietly solved. I picked up the catering bag again, hands trembling as I found the packing slip taped to the side. The order confirmation. 3 plates. 1 for Douglas, 1 for Rachel, 1 for her mother. Not me. I wasn't even an afterthought. Then I saw the sticky note attached to the retirement packet, handwritten in Rachel's sharp script. Here's the packet for Doug to sign. Once it's official, she'll be out before summer. Thank God. I couldn't breathe. That note wasn't meant for me. It was meant for the man I raised and the woman I tried so hard to get along with. It came into my hands by pure accident. One delivery driver's mistake exposed their entire plan. I sank into my kitchen chair. The house felt loud now even in its silence. My heartbeat echoed in my ears. For so long I'd ignored the signs. Rachel talking over me at dinner. Douglas only calling when he needed something. The way they discouraged Ava from spending time here. It all made sense now. I remembered last fall when Douglas asked if I'd updated my will, suggested we streamline my finances. At the time I thought he was being responsible. I even thanked him for looking out for me. I didn't know he was looking to take over. I walked to the linen closet where I kept my fireproof box. Inside were bank records, property deeds, insurance policies. I flipped through until I found the account number from the retirement packet. There it was. My checking account. I'd given Douglas access 5 years ago after my hip surgery. Just for emergencies, I told myself. He must have used that access to initiate the deposit for the home. What hurt more than the betrayal was the cowardice. Not even the decency to sit me down and pretend it was for my own good. They were going to spring it on me like a birthday surprise. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. You're being evicted from your life. The kettle started whistling. I hadn't even realized I'd turned the burner on. I poured myself a cup more for the motion than comfort, then walked to the living room. The same couch where Douglas used to lie with his head in my lap when he had fevers. Where Ava once curled up to hear my stories. Where I'd sat every year waiting for someone to remember I mattered. I placed the envelope beside me and picked up the phone. Douglas answered on the 4th ring. His voice casual and distracted. Hey Ma. Sorry I didn't call earlier. Been a busy day. How are you? Busy, of course. I'm fine, I said quietly. Just had some unexpected mail delivered. Pause. Shift in his tone. Oh, what kind of mail? A welcome packet from Morning Grove Retirement Living. I believe it was meant for you, but the delivery driver gave it to me. Silence. I could hear him breathing. Then fumbling noise like he was covering the phone, followed by a muffled "she knows." Look, Ma, he finally said. We were going to talk to you about that. No, Douglas, you weren't. We were just trying to figure out the best way to help. Rachel thought. Rachel doesn't know me, and you clearly don't either. His voice cracked slightly. It's not like that. I stood slowly, holding the phone in one hand, the envelope in the other. You sent me food like I was a stray dog. You canceled Mother's Day. You took my money and now you're making plans to remove me from the home your father and I built. The home I let you grow up in. He sighed. You're making this dramatic. No, I'm seeing it clearly for the first time in a long time. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just said, don't come here again. I'll make arrangements myself. And I hung up. My hands were steady. I looked around my home and made a decision. I was not going to be erased quietly. Would you let this happen to your own mama? Let me know in the comments because I need to know there are still people out there who understand what family really means. The phone didn't ring again that night. No apologetic texts, no explanations. I suppose once you've been exposed, there's not much left to say unless it comes with shame or decency. My son seemed to have neither. The next morning I rose early. I didn't cry. I didn't waste time asking why. I went straight to my file cabinet and called my lawyer. Michelle Dillard and I went to high school together back in 1966. She'd gone off to college, then law school, now had her own practice. I hadn't spoken to her in years, but she picked up on the second ring like we were still sitting next to each other in history class. Millie Carter, haven't heard from you in too long. What's going on? I need to change my will. Today. She didn't ask why. Just told me she'd be by that afternoon. By noon she was in my living room with her briefcase and fresh papers. I told her everything. What Douglas had done, the nursing home, the financial betrayal, all of it. That's elder fraud, she said. You want to file a claim? No. I want to make sure he never touches another dime of my money again. And I want this house safe. We spent 2 hours going over documents. I updated my will. I revoked his power of attorney. I changed all my accounts to a living trust with Michelle as co-executive. I transferred the house into the trust and had it all notarized. It felt like sealing bricks over a door someone tried to sneak through. When we finished, she looked at me with those sharp lawyer eyes. Do you want him to know? I shook my head. Not yet. Why? Because I'm not done watching them reveal themselves. Later that day I heard from Ava. My granddaughter, 17, soft-spoken, always watching. I hadn't heard from her in months. Her voice was quiet when she called. Grandma, are you okay? Why do you ask, baby? Pause. Dad and Mom were arguing. I overheard something about you being mad about a delivery. I wanted to ask if she'd known about their plan, but I stopped myself. Ava wasn't like them. She still had her own heart. I found something they didn't want me to see, I said. And I think I found out the truth about how they see me. She didn't say anything. Then whispered. I think I already knew. That's when something cracked inside me. Not pain but relief. Someone in that house still had a conscience. I want to come see you, Ava said. Whenever you're ready. The door's open, but just you. She showed up 2 days later, taller than I remembered, hair longer, looking like a woman and child at once. She sat on the same couch where the welcome packet had landed. She saw the envelope still on the table. I heard Mom say you were overreacting, she said. But I knew it wasn't nothing. I handed her the papers. She read them slowly. When she finished, her hands were shaking. She lied to me, she said. They both did. I watched her process it all. Finally she said, Grandma, what are you going to do? I've already done it. I changed everything. They can't touch anything now. Not the house, not the money, not me. She looked relieved, then ashamed. I'm sorry I didn't say something sooner. I knew something wasn't right. I just didn't know how to help. You helped just now, I said. That night I slept peacefully for the first time in years. Because I wasn't helpless. I wasn't forgotten. And the house they wanted to steal still had its rightful owner. Drop a heart in the comments if you've ever felt invisible in your own family. Let me know I'm not alone in this. It's strange how a home can feel entirely different once you stop being afraid of losing it. The walls hadn't changed, the furniture hadn't moved, but everything in me had shifted. After Ava left that evening, I walked from room to room, touching the trim, the wallpaper, the edges of my life. I'd spent 46 years in this house. I'd laughed in it, grieved in it, grown old in it, and for a brief moment I'd let myself believe someone could just take it from me. Not anymore. The next day I stood on my porch with tea, watching the neighborhood wake up. Mr. Franklin watered his tomato vines across the street. A woman in a pink tracksuit walked her golden retriever past my mailbox. It was ordinary but peaceful. For the first time in weeks I wasn't waiting for anything. Not calls, not explanations, not the other shoe to drop. Then I saw Rachel's SUV turn onto my street. Parked too close to the curb as usual. She stepped out in her cream blouse and heels, sunglasses perched like armor. She walked up my porch steps stiffly, clearly rehearsed, stopping just short of the door. Mildred, she said, forcing a smile. Can we talk? You've got 3 minutes, I said, sipping my tea. She cleared her throat. I think there's been a big misunderstanding. Douglas and I were only trying to do what's best for you. You forged my medical information and initiated a transfer to a facility without my consent. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a betrayal. Her smile didn't falter, but her neck flushed red. We thought we were helping. No, you thought you were getting rid of me. She held up a folder. The home is beautiful. You would have had a private suite, a garden, weekly massages. We only wanted to give you comfort. I stared at her. You want to talk about comfort? Comfort is eating breakfast in your own kitchen. Comfort is choosing when you go outside, when you rest, when you speak. Comfort is freedom, not polished isolation. Her hand twitched. We didn't mean for it to feel like that. Then why did I find out through a delivery mistake? Why wasn't I given the respect of a conversation? She had no answer. Finally she said, "Look, Mildred, Douglas is upset. He said you locked him out of the accounts. Is that true?" "Yes. And the will and the deed and the trust. All of it." She blinked, stunned. "You can't do that without telling him." "I can, and I did, because it's mine. And because I finally remembered who I was before your husband tried to make me feel like a burden." Rachel stepped back, ready to regroup. "I don't know what Ava told you." "She didn't tell me anything." "I told her." Her jaw tightened. She turned to go, then hesitated. "You're going to regret this." "No," I said. "But you might." 2 days later, Ava came back with daffodils she picked from behind the school. No makeup, no pretenses, and she hugged me like she meant it. "Mom's furious," she whispered. "I know. Let her be." We sat on the back patio together. She talked about college applications, about how her friends were obsessed with phones and filters, how no one seemed to care about anything real. I told her about her grandfather, how he used to plant tomatoes and talk to them like children, how we once danced barefoot in the kitchen after losing half our money on a bad business loan, how I held Douglas when he had croup so bad I thought he'd stop breathing. "He wasn't always like this," I said softly. "I know," Ava replied. "But he is now." She told me she wanted to spend more time here, that something about this place made her feel grounded. I told her she'd always have space, didn't have to wait for holidays to come home. She looked at me, eyes full of tears. "You're the only adult in my life who tells the truth." That night I wrote a letter to myself. I wrote down everything I remembered about my life, my strength, my fears, my dreams. I wrote about the day I became a mother, the day I became a widow, the day I became forgotten, and the day I remembered myself again. Then I folded it and placed it in my bedside drawer. Because if anyone ever tried to rewrite my story again, I wanted my version to be the one that survived. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs to remember their own worth. Like and subscribe, because stories like mine deserve to be heard. The next few days passed quietly, and for once I welcomed the quiet. No voicemails from Douglas, no surprise visits, no sneaky paperwork. Just me, my garden, my tea, and the peace that came from finally stopping the storm they'd been stirring behind my back. I was tending my azaleas that morning, humming a hymn I hadn't sung in years, when I heard the car. Douglas's old sedan, the one I'd helped him buy when he couldn't afford the down payment. It pulled into my driveway slowly, like it wasn't sure if it was welcome. He stepped out looking smaller than I remembered. No suit, no smile, just khakis and a wrinkled polo shirt, and the look of a man who finally realized his mother wasn't the fool he thought she was. I stood at the edge of the porch and waited. "Ma," he said, not climbing the steps. "Can we talk?" "You've been talking for weeks, Doug. Just not to me." He looked down like a child caught with sticky fingers. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I really thought it was for the best." "No, you thought it was easiest for you." He looked up, guilt plain on his face. "Rachel pushed it. You know how she gets. She said you were starting to forget things, that it wasn't safe for you to live alone." I raised an eyebrow. "What did I forget, Douglas? The PIN code I gave you access to? Or the will you never read but assumed would benefit you?" He didn't answer. "Don't blame your wife for choices you signed your name to." "I was scared," he said. "We've got the girls, the house, the bills. It's all so much. I just thought maybe it was time to start thinking ahead." "So you planned a future that didn't include me?" "Behind my back." He reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope. "I brought this. It's not from me. It's from Ava." I walked down 2 steps, took the envelope, opened it right there. Handwritten, no formatting, just raw words. "Dear Grandma, I know things have been awful lately, and I feel like I should have said something sooner. When I found out what they were planning, I didn't know how to speak up without them shutting me down. I was scared, but after I saw you last week, I wasn't scared anymore. You're the only one in this family who has ever made me feel seen. I don't care what they say. I know you're strong, and I know you're still sharp, and I know they were wrong to do what they did. I love you. I'm proud of you, and I want to spend more time with you if you'll have me. Love, Ava." I folded the letter slowly. "She's a better person than both of you." "I know," he whispered. I nodded toward the driveway. "You can go now." He looked like he wanted to argue but didn't. He turned and walked back to his car. When he drove away, I didn't feel triumphant. Just tired. Tired of men who shrink when things get hard. Tired of women who smile while they bury you. Tired of pretending forgiveness is automatic. Later that afternoon, Michelle stopped by to finalize the paperwork. She handed me the new title for the house, now secured under my name alone. "You did the right thing," she said. "Most people ignore the signs until it's too late." I almost did, until a stranger handed me the truth in a paper envelope. Before she left, she asked about final wishes, legacy instructions beyond what we'd already covered. "I want Ava to have the house when I go," I said. Not because I owe it to her, but because she showed up. Because she asked questions when others just made decisions. Because she still knows how to love with her eyes open. That night I pulled out my recipe box, the one I hadn't opened in years. Cards covered in flour dust and grease stains. Chicken pot pie, buttermilk biscuits, lemon pound cake. I wrote a new one. Title: Ava's First Dinner. Ingredients: 1 granddaughter, 1 kitchen, 1 memory that matters. I placed it on top because from now on I would cook for people who chose to stay, not those who plotted how to make me disappear. The following Sunday, Ava came over with a tote bag and an apron, looking more grown up than I remembered. Not because of makeup or clothes, but because of how she held herself. Eyes steady, shoulders square. She was no longer a child caught between parents. She was choosing sides and she chose mine. "You ready to cook?" she asked. "I've been ready since 1983, I said, opening the door wide. We made chicken and dumplings from scratch. She peeled carrots too thick and dropped the measuring spoon in the flour, but I didn't care. She laughed at herself, wiped her hands on her jeans, asked questions like she actually wanted to learn. I watched her stir the broth while humming to the radio, and for a moment I forgot what month it was. I forgot about envelopes and betrayal and retirement home schemes. All I saw was her. When dinner was done, we ate at the kitchen table. No fancy china, just 2 chipped plates and mismatched glasses. Sun poured through the window like an old friend. We didn't speak much while eating and didn't have to. Some silences are blessings. After we finished, she helped me wash dishes, standing shoulder to shoulder, our hands wet and wrinkled in soapy water. "Grandma," she said softly, "are you really never going to talk to Dad again?" I dried a plate and set it on the rack. I didn't say never, but forgiveness takes more than an apology. Takes change. I don't think he knows how to change. That's not my responsibility. My job was to raise him. What he does with what I gave him, that's on him now. She nodded, but I could tell it sat heavy in her chest. "You love him," I said. "And that's okay. But don't let love blind you to the truth. People who love you can still hurt you. And people who hurt you don't always deserve a second chance just because they share your blood." She looked at me with those clear eyes. "That's why I'm here." That night I showed her the garden. The azaleas were blooming. The moon was low and wide, casting silver across the flower beds. We sat on the porch swing, rocking slowly as night settled in. I told her stories about her grandfather, how he used to whistle while fixing the roof, how he once fell off a ladder into the rose bush, cursing until I handed him iced tea. She laughed until her stomach hurt. Later, after she left, I went to my room and opened the drawer with the letters. Hers and mine and the new one I'd written. I reread them all, one written in fear, the others in love. Together they told the full story. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I wrote another letter to myself. "Dear Mildred, you are not what they called you. You are not old and in the way. You are not confused. You are not a burden. You are the root. You are the keeper of stories. You are the woman who remembered herself just in time. Don't forget again. Not ever. Share this story if you believe every woman deserves to be heard, no matter her age. Comment strength if you know what it means to stand up for yourself when everyone expects you to stay quiet." The next morning I made coffee and sat at the dining table with the real newspaper, not the digital kind. I circled an ad for community storytelling at the local library. "Seniors welcome. Bring your voice, your truth, your experience." I smiled. Later that week Michelle called. "You sure you want to do this?" "I am." "All right, I've updated the will. Ava inherits the house, the savings, the rights to your memoirs if you ever write one. I'm already working on the title. How's this? The day I was supposed to disappear. She laughed. That'll get some attention. Good. Let the world see what happens when you try to bury a woman who still has fire in her bones. On Saturday, I saw Rachel's SUV pass my street again. She didn't stop this time. Maybe she finally realized I wasn't going anywhere. Or maybe she knew she'd lost the battle she never imagined I'd fight. Either way, she drove off and I stayed right where I belonged. In my house. In my power. In my name. Not Mildred the patient. Not Mildred the dependent. Just Mildred Carter. Mother, grandmother, survivor, and the woman who ate alone on Mother's Day, only to uncover the truth and make sure no one ever erased her again. Let me know where you're listening from, and if this story reminded you of your own strength. Because every one of us has fire in our bones, even when the world tries to convince us we're just ashes. Like, comment, and subscribe because women like me have stories that need telling, and voices like yours keep us going.